This baby, barely born, can already understand his parents' conversations. He watches his mom change his soaked diapers and sneaks peeks at his dad fighting monsters, secretly studying combat skills. His name is Arthur, just a few months old. He's already escaping his crib. He dodges his mom while she's busy with chores and sneaks to the bookshelf, poring over magic tomes bigger than he is. Most people awaken their magical talent at 20. Arthur, barely able to talk or walk, masters magic in record time, and accidentally blows up his house. When his parents find him, he's floating in midair, powered by raw magic. And that's just the start. In his first fight, Arthur slices through his father's weapon, showing strength far beyond his age. His parents, seasoned adventurers, are floored. By age 4, Arthur's sparring with warriors, outrunning assassins, and even in a hopeless battle against 100 foes, he takes down the enemy mage in a blaze of mutual destruction. To unravel the mystery of this kid, we need to go back to his past life. Arthur came from a world without magic, only advanced tech. An orphan from the slums, he clawed his way up through brute force and cunning, waging wars until he stood at the pinnacle as the mightiest king. But that life was brutal, constantly dodging assassins. Arthur found death a relief. Reborn in this new world as a newborn, he thought it was a dream, until he noticed something wild. His parents wield magic, a power he'd never seen. This world teems with monsters and adventurers, some so strong they rival fighter jets. Arthur feels a spark of joy, thrilled by this strange world and the warmth of family. In his past life, he knew only bloodshed and betrayal, with no one to trust. Now, he has Reynolds and Alice, parents who adore him. Arthur cherishes this new life. While other babies are busy wetting diapers, he's training his bladder control and devouring books about this world. The continent is home to humans, elves, and dwarves, all thriving on magic with no trace of tech. Magic splits into two types: sorcerers like Alice, who summon elemental attacks or support spells, and warriors like Reynolds, who enhance their bodies for battle. As a former king, Arthur's knowledge is vast. His old world had weaker supernatural forces, but he blends that insight with this world's magic. He seizes every chance to learn from warriors and sorcerers, though his parents often interrupt, hoping he'll stay their little boy a bit longer. Raised in an orphanage, Arthur once saw family as a luxury. Maybe the god sensed his longing, granting him this life as a gift. Bathed in his parents' love, the once mighty king now giggles and acts cute, even using his charm to sneak more time with magic books. Years ahead of his peers, he awakens his magic early. Reynolds and Alice stare at their ruined house and their floating son. Their first thought isn't shock or pride, it's relief that Arthur's safe. Tears stream down Alice's face, landing on Arthur's cheeks. He cries too, unstoppable. He can fend off any emotion. But family, that's his weakness. Arthur doesn't let family ties slow his grind. His past life taught him that the weak get crushed. To protect those he loves, he needs to be stronger. Reynolds is stunned. At 4, Arthur's already terrifyingly powerful. In their first sparring match, Arthur snaps his dad's weapon in half. This sparks a rift between Reynolds and Alice. Reynolds wants to send Arthur to train with elites for a brighter future. Alice, worried he's too young to fend for himself, refuses to let him go. Sensing the tension, Arthur suggests they all travel together. His parents, unable to part with him, agree instantly. They call on old adventurer allies to escort them to a distant city. The team's stacked, every class covered. Most are warm toward Arthur, except for Jasmine, the quiet assassin who keeps her distance. The journey opens Arthur's eyes. In his past life, he zipped around in high-speed airships. Now, a slow carriage lets him soak in the scenery. Reynolds and Alice's caution proves wise. On day 1, monsters attack, the team's synergy shines, and the weak creatures fall in 3 rounds, ending up as dinner. The trip reveals something else. Alice is a rare healing mage. Her powers are so valuable she hides them from strangers to avoid being snatched by shady organizations. She fled to the countryside for peace. After dinner, the warrior Adam spars with Arthur. Everyone, except Reynolds and Alice, is floored by Arthur's talent. Jasmine, intrigued by his techniques, starts pestering him to study his moves. From then on, Arthur trains under the team's guidance, sharpening his swordplay and battlefield tactics. On his birthday, Jasmine gifts him a short dagger with a rope tied to the hilt. Arthur can tether it to himself and throw it for long-range attacks. Hours later, that dagger becomes his lifeline. As they prepare to move out, Arthur notices Alice looking queasy. He recalls her poor appetite on the road and grows worried. Then, real trouble hits. A massive bandit gang surrounds them, demanding women and children while vowing to slaughter the men. One-on-one, Arthur's team is stronger, but the bandits' numbers seem endless. The group faces a grim reality. Constant fighting drains their stamina, and they can't outlast the horde. Worse, the bandit leader joins the fray. Reynolds forbids Arthur and Alice from helping. His next words shake Arthur to his core. Alice is pregnant. Arthur must get her and the unborn baby to safety. Now it clicks. Alice's nausea was morning sickness. Reynolds sacrifices himself, holding off the leader. Jasmine and the others clear a path through the bandits. Arthur grabs Alice to flee, but a bandit mage ambushes them. Arthur shoves Alice aside and tumbles off a cliff. In his final moment, he hurls Jasmine's dagger, the rope snaring the mage, dragging them both to their doom. The world goes silent. Arthur can't hear Alice's screams. Tears stream down his face. He doesn't fear death, only leaving his parents and the sibling he'll never meet. He clings to this hard-won happiness, desperate to hold on. When Arthur comes to, he's in a strange cave. A massive creature looms before him. He attacks, but she swats him away effortlessly. Thankfully, she's not hostile. She gathers fruit, insisting he eat before asking questions. Munching, Arthur learns her name, Sylvia. She shares good news. His parents escaped safely. Tears fall as Arthur thanks her sincerely. Sylvia explains she's bound to the cave, using magic to monitor the outside. The area crawls with monsters and bandits, so she needs time to prepare a teleportation spell for Arthur. Beyond that, she's tight-lipped, her identity a mystery. Sylvia shows off a jaw-dropping skill, casting spells while gathering magic, boosting her endurance in battle. Arthur begs to learn, eager to wipe out his enemies. Sylvia flicks him away, unimpressed by his answer. Under her guidance, Arthur gains clarity. In his past life, he was a king, but Parliament ran the show. He was more a general, waging wars until he burned out and abdicated. Now, he knows why he fights. Power is a tool to protect loved ones, not a weapon for rage or revenge. Pleased with his growth, Sylvia takes him as her disciple. Meanwhile, a creature resembling Sylvia slays a dragon. Sensing danger, Sylvia hides Arthur in a rock pile, warning him to stay quiet. A massive beast storms the cave. Attacking, Sylvia unshackles her true form, a dragon, and fights with all she's got. But the enemy's stronger and spots Arthur. Sylvia triggers her ultimate ability, Time Stop. She hands Arthur a dragon egg and a feather, etching a strange tattoo on his arm. In her final moments, Sylvia calls Arthur by his past life name, urging him not to let darkness consume him again. Arthur has a million questions, but time's up. He has to go. Not everyone's as kind as Sylvia. When time resumes, the enemy unleashes a brutal assault. With her last strength, Sylvia detonates the cave. Teleported away, Arthur's face is soaked with tears. Suddenly, a girl's scream pierces the air. He forces his grief aside, snapping to high alert. With a quick spell on his ankles, he leaps onto a high branch. Arthur soon spots the source. A group of slavers has captured an elf girl, having been separated from his parents during a bandit attack. Arthur knows he could have ended up enslaved like her, but he refuses to let fear take over. Channeling Sylvia's teachings, he calms himself and trails the slavers, waiting for a chance to act. Night falls. Arthur deliberately hurls a stone at the slaver's mount, luring one enemy to investigate alone. In a flash, he kills two of them. The third dodges a fatal blow and shouts a warning to his comrades. The fourth slaver, the strongest, gives Arthur no edge in the fight's early moments. After several brutal close-quarters exchanges, Arthur nearly gets caught, but as the mightiest king in his past life, his battle-honed instincts kick in. With a masterful display, he takes down all his foes. Arthur frees the elf girl, learning her name is Tesha. She was snatched by slavers while playing. Ever considerate, Arthur covers the slavers' bodies with cloth to spare the young elf trauma. Though he planned to search for his parents, he can't leave Tesha to fend for herself. Especially after Tesha risks attack to free the slaver's mount. Her kindness convinces Arthur to play the hero and escort her home. Arthur passes on the compassion Sylvia showed him. Some people uphold kindness without expecting reward. Tesha can be a bit spoiled at times, and Arthur, despite being only 4, feels exasperated. He longs to reunite with his family but spends precious time in this strange forest. Still, he swallows his impatience, treating Tesha like a patient older brother. Nights are the toughest. The forest teems with danger, and Arthur, exhausted from the day, must stay vigilant. Awkwardly, Tesha loves to chat, revealing that elves view humans poorly. Arthur brushes it off, a mistake that nearly costs him his life. Crossing mountains and waterfalls, Arthur struggles to keep going, often carrying Tesha on his back. Exhaustion pushes him to his limit, and a sharp chest pain begins to plague him, growing more frequent until it strikes every few hours. At his weakest, the slaver's mount suddenly reappears. Arthur, too drained to fight, braces for the worst, but the creature means no harm. It brings food as thanks. That night, Arthur eats roasted meat, his mood heavy. Without this meal, they might have starved. His worries aren't baseless. Tesha's attempt at foraging yields only poisonous mushrooms. Thankfully, the poison only causes diarrhea, or this show might have ended at episode 4. Arthur, who survived bandits, feels like Tesha's antics might be the death of him. Overwhelmed by fatigue, he falls asleep without keeping watch for the first time. The good news, just as his body hits its breaking point, they reach the entrance to the Elven Kingdom. Tesha is thrilled. Arthur's expression, however, is grim. The moment he steps into the Elven Kingdom, soldiers arrest him, branding him an intruder and preparing to execute him. He looks to Tesha for help, but her strange expression sends a chill through him. In that instant, Arthur's haunted by memories of betrayal from his past life. He suspects Tesha, like other elves, despises humans and has discarded him now that he's served his purpose. Chaos erupts. Tesha frantically stops the soldiers from killing Arthur, and her family appears. Arthur is stunned to learn her parents, Alduin and Miriel, are the Elven King and Queen. The most formidable figure is Tesha's grandfather, Varian. His reason overrides his hatred of humans, and he halts Alduin's order to execute Arthur, insisting on investigating what happened between Arthur and Tesha. Arthur senses that with Varian present, he might escape death. As he follows Tesha for questioning, he encounters the Elven Kingdom's architecture and its hostility. The long-standing war between elves and humans leaves Arthur in a precarious spot. He's also puzzled by Tesha's odd expression when he faced execution. Then, his chest pain flares again. Arthur's troubles pile up. He worries for his parents, his health, and the looming Elven investigation. Thanks to Tesha's vouching, tensions ease slightly. Arthur, ever polite, recounts how he was separated from his family and saved Tesha from slavers. Cautiously, he omits his encounter with Sylvia. The problem? The elves, seeing Arthur as a mere child, doubt he could defeat slavers. Only Varian remains neutral. Alduin, steeped in anti-human prejudice, stays wary. When Arthur asks to be sent back to the human kingdom, Alduin refuses, dismissing the debt owed for Tesha's rescue. Tesha glares fiercely at her father, forcing him to relent. The elves reveal a portal to the human kingdom, used only for human-elf-dwarf summits, which won't open for another 5 years. Desperate to find his parents, Arthur refuses to wait. Alduin shifts tactics, offering to send elven soldiers to escort him. Just then, Varian notices Arthur clutching his chest. That night, the pain worsens. Arthur steps outside for fresh air, hoping to ease it. He spots Tesha with her parents, their warmth a stark contrast to his loneliness. Tesha notices his gloom and, to cheer him up, playfully squishes his face. Arthur regrets suspecting Tesha of betrayal. Her pure kindness proves she'd never harm him. His past life's betrayals have made him overly suspicious. Suddenly, Varian feigns an attack on Tesha, confirming Arthur's magical talent. Varian tosses Arthur a sword to test his true strength. During their clash, Varian is astonished. Arthur's combat skills, paired with his talent, surpass many seasoned warriors. He even protects Tesha mid-fight. In a moment of carelessness, Varian is outmaneuvered by Arthur's sneak attack. Varian, eager for another round, is stopped by Tesha. He admires Arthur and hints at taking him as a student, warning that refusal means death. Arthur collapses, his mind conjuring another version of himself, tormented by pain. A mysterious beast looms ahead, but before he can make sense of it, Tesha wakes him. Tesha, worried for his health, shares news. Varian wasn't threatening him but insisting he stay in the Elven Kingdom for treatment. Meanwhile, Varian argues with Alduin. Elven tradition forbids humans from staying long, but Varian is adamant. He plans to take Arthur to an old friend. On the way, Varian thanks Arthur, noting that Tesha smiles more with him. As the kingdom's sole heir, Tesha was betrayed by friends at a young age. Arthur realizes she hides her pain behind her cheerful facade. They meet Varian's friend, Linnea, who, like Arthur's mother, Alice, wields rare magic beyond the 4 elements. Linnea instructs Arthur to gaze into a basin of water and picture his parents. Let's check in on Alice and Reynolds. They're still consumed by grief, haunted by their separation from Arthur. Reynolds drowns his pain in alcohol, while Alice weeps daily. After parting with their companions, they try to move forward, but thoughts of Arthur pierce their hearts with guilt and longing. Arthur's voice suddenly reaches them, startling them into thinking it's a ghost. He explains he must stay in the Elven Kingdom for treatment and urges them to stay strong. Overjoyed, Reynolds and Alice cling to hope for a reunion. As Arthur's tears fall into the water, the connection fades. He vows to grow stronger to spare his parents more pain. The final hurdle is convincing Alduin. Varian promises to oversee Arthur as his mentor, ensuring he poses no threat to the elves. Tesha stresses they owe Arthur for saving her. Under pressure from his father and daughter, Alduin relents, allowing Arthur to stay, a historic step toward human-elf harmony that would shock other kingdoms. Hand in hand with Tesha, Arthur finally takes in the Elven Kingdom's beauty. In his past life, he chased strength, neglecting life's deeper joys. His mood sours when Elven kids, raised to see humans as savages, mock Tesha for befriending him. Arthur, with his past life adult wit, won't stay quiet. He outsmarts the ringleader, Phyllis, in a verbal spar. Furious, Phyllis challenges him to a duel, threatening to tarnish Varian's name if Arthur refuses. The elven adults, hoping to see Arthur lose, don't intervene, but the fight is one-sided. Without even using magic, Arthur knocks Phyllis out with a single punch. The gap in their skill is staggering. After these hiccups, Arthur faces a new trial. He's inherited a beast's will, causing his chest pain. It's not all bad. Training with Virion could turn this power into a weapon. Arthur is eager, sensing this life will outshine his last. Time flies, and Arthur's been training under the former elf king, Virion, for 3 years now. He's often paired with the elf princess, Tesha, for sparring sessions. Over the past 3 years, Tesha's grown a ton too. She awakened her magical power at 9, a once-in-a-century genius among the elves. This princess has gone from needing Arthur's protection to holding her own against him for dozens of rounds in a fight. After sparring, Virion gives lectures on magical knowledge. The main elemental magic types are fire, water, wind, and earth. Humans can choose one type to master, though a rare few can wield multiple elements. Arthur's beast will, buried deep inside him, hasn't fully awakened yet, and the pain in his chest has been holding back his magical growth. Now, Virion decides it's time to help awaken Arthur's beast will. What happens next shocks everyone. Arthur lets out a roar like a dragon's, and a massive surge of power sends everyone around him flying. He collapses into a coma, and Virion's face turns grim. At dusk, Arthur wakes up. Under Virion's questioning, he reveals the truth. What's inside him isn't an ordinary beast will but a dragon's will, inherited from Sylvia. Virion warns him to keep it a secret. Dragon wills are incredibly rare, and if word gets out, it'll draw dangerous attention. Virion also tells Arthur that in 4 months, a youth exchange event between humans, elves, and dwarves will take place. A portal will open, letting Arthur reunite with his family. This news catches Arthur off guard. He thought he had 2 more years of training, but now he's facing a sudden goodbye to Virion and Tesha. That night, unable to sleep, the dragon egg Sylvia gave him suddenly cracks open. A dragon hatchling emerges, and Arthur names it Sylvie. After Sylvia, Sylvie looks like a tiny kitten, and unless Arthur spills the beans, nobody would guess it's a dragon. What's cool is that, even though Sylvie can't speak human language, she can communicate basic thoughts with Arthur telepathically. The next morning, Tesha spots Sylvie and thinks she's adorable, begging to adopt the little creature. Virion, with his vast knowledge, instantly recognizes Sylvie as a dragon. He warns Arthur again to pass her off as an ordinary magical beast to outsiders. With Arthur's time in the Elven Kingdom running short, Virion kicks off some intense training. For the first time, the former elf king shows his full strength, overwhelming Arthur with immense pressure. Now that the dragon will is awake, the pain in Arthur's chest is gone, and he throws himself into training harder than ever. As the day of his departure nears, a small incident pops up. Arthur gets provoked by Phyllis again. Compared to 3 years ago, the gap in their strength is even wider now, and Arthur easily takes down the elf boy. Phyllis respects Arthur's power, and the two clear up their misunderstanding, becoming friends. But Tesha, Arthur's other friend, isn't in high spirits. With their separation looming, she's been down, often crying alone. Arthur notices something's off with the princess and pays her a late-night visit. They return to the forest where they first met 3 years ago, hoping to create a special memory. Under the starry sky, with a campfire crackling, the boy and girl talk softly, the night breeze carrying a hint of sweetness. For once, Tesha sleeps soundly. The day of parting finally arrives. Tesha shows up at the last moment, despite her fear of goodbyes, unable to resist seeing Arthur one more time. They share a final embrace as the portal opens. When Arthur reunites with his parents, there's a bit of awkwardness at first, followed by overwhelming joy. It's been 3 years, and all 3 of them, Arthur, Reynolds, and Alice, look different now. Arthur's got a new little sister, Eleanor, who's instantly drawn to Sylvie and warms up to Arthur because of her. Arthur shares his adventures with his parents but, for safety, leaves out his encounter with Sylvia and introduces Sylvie as just an ordinary magical beast. Reynolds fills Arthur in on his own life. He's now training security personnel at a high-end auction house and living at the home of the owner, Vincent. Magical power is divided into 6 levels, each with 3 stages. Reynolds is at level 3. Stage 1. A mid-tier warrior among humans. When Reynolds hears Arthur's already at level 2, stage 3, he's thrilled. No one's jealous of their own kid, and Reynolds is itching for a sparring match with his son. Just then, Vincent returns with his wife, Tabitha, and daughter, Lilia. He and Reynolds act more like buddies than boss and employee. Sylvie's cuteness wins over Lilia, just like it did Tesha and Eleanor. Vincent's stunned to learn Arthur's magic level. Most genius teens at the Magic Academy barely reach level 2, stage 1 in their mid-teens. What he doesn't know is that Arthur's early training was slowed by his unawakened dragon will. If he'd gone all out, he'd have surpassed Reynolds already. In their sparring match, father and son start cautiously, testing each other to avoid injury. Once they confirm their strengths are close, Reynolds gets serious, his body glowing with fire element magic. In this world, Every awakened warrior or mage can master one elemental magic type. Water brings crashing waves, fire delivers burns, wind summons hurricanes, and earth triggers landslides. Elemental magic at the same level is typically 3 times stronger than non-elemental magic. Arthur's on the defensive, dodging Reynolds' fiery attacks. Everyone watching assumes Arthur hasn't learned elemental magic yet. Then, a yellow glow radiates from him. This kid pulls off another surprise. Not only has he mastered elemental magic, but he's wielding both water and fire elements, a rare dual-element user. Vincent's even more excited than Reynolds. Who wouldn't want a future top-tier warrior as a friend? When he learns Arthur awakened his magic at age 3, Vincent decides to send him to the Magic Academy, with Tabitha offering to cover all his tuition. It's a smart investment. If Vincent's auction house can claim a top-tier warrior, even royalty will have to show them respect. Vincent, who's got connections with the Magic Academy's principal, promises to secure Arthur's admission. Arthur, claiming he's too tired, heads to his room to rest, subtly declining the offer without a direct response. As Arthur steps away, Lilia invites him to the kitchen. This young lady acts proper in front of her parents but is super lively in private. Arthur learns from a maid that Vincent and Tabitha want Lilia to become a mage, but she's never awakened her magical talent. Whenever Lilia feels stressed, she sneaks to the kitchen for a big meal. Arthur realizes his arrival as a genius might be putting pressure on her. Just as Arthur's thinking of ways to help Lilia, a group of old friends shows up, stealing his attention. Reynolds' adventurer teammates rush over to see Arthur as soon as they hear he's back. Arthur feels their warmth, especially from Jasmine, who's like a big sister to him. The welcome Arthur gets is beyond what he expected. Tabitha takes him for a fresh haircut, and Lilia picks out new clothes for him. They visit Vincent's auction house, where Arthur gets teased by some Magic Academy students. Lilia tells him these kids act cockier than royalty, flaunting their special status. Soon, they cross paths again. Lilia's trying to buy a magical beast core to help awaken her magic when she runs into the academy students at a shop. These teens are used to bullying regular folks, and Arthur's done holding back. Just as he's about to fight, Tabitha arrives. As Vincent's wife, she makes it clear who she is. The students, knowing Vincent donates heavily to the academy, back off to avoid trouble. For now, when Vincent hears about the incident, he reassures Arthur it won't affect his academy admission. Out of nowhere, Lilia confronts Vincent, asking if Arthur's enrollment will take her spot. Ignoring her parents' explanations, she retreats to the kitchen. Feeling hurt, Arthur decides it's time to help Lilia snap out of it. He knows her biggest fear is losing her parents' love. At dawn, Arthur drops a bombshell on the adults. He's sent Lilia to the Elven Kingdom to train, hoping it'll help her awaken her magic and meet her parents' expectations. Vincent's devastated. His only wish for Lilia was happiness, not to send her far away for grueling training. After Vincent pours his heart out, Lilia suddenly appears. It was all part of Arthur's plan to clear up the misunderstanding between father and daughter, helping Lilia see how much her parents love her. Next, Arthur moves on to his next plan. Using his training experience from the Elven Kingdom, he guides Lilia in her practice. Finally, she breaks through her bottleneck and awakens her magic. That night, Lilia heads to the kitchen, not to stress eat, but to celebrate. That's the recap for episodes 7 to 9. Arthur's return to the human world stirs up some trouble, and he's bound to clash with those Magic Academy students. With his current strength, those kids don't stand a chance. Only true powerhouses, like whatever mysterious creature took down Sylvia, can be considered Arthur's real enemies. The Magic Academy is just a stepping stone. The real adventure's just getting started. Want to know what happens next? Subscribe to my channel, and let's dive into this epic fantasy journey together. After a fleeting moment of joy, a new crisis creeps up on Arthur. Vincent throws a grand gala for the auction house's 10th anniversary, and even the royal family shows up in their finest. Arthur's so caught up in the bidding frenzy that it takes him a while to notice Sylvie's gone missing. By the time he realizes, Sylvie's caught the eye of the king's personal mage. Arthur tries to talk it out, hoping to bring her back peacefully, but this mage isn't having it. Flush with the royal treatment, the guy's ego is through the roof. He even threatens to kill Arthur's family. That's a line you don't cross with Arthur. His family's everything to him in this life. Rage takes over, and a chilling wave of killing intent sweeps the auction hall. By the time Arthur snaps out of it, the place is in chaos. He figures that raw menace would make the mage back off, but things spiral in a way he didn't expect. The mage manipulates the king, trying to force a deal to take Sylvie. When that fails, he teams up with soldiers and attacks. Arthur's done holding back. He takes down the soldiers in a flash, then unleashes a burst of power, casting a time-stop spell he learned from Sylvia. The mage doesn't stand a chance. Arthur snaps his leg like a twig. Exhausted from pushing his limits, Arthur passes out. When he comes to, he's back in his bedroom. The whole mess somehow ends peacefully. The king fires the soldiers and the mage, blaming them for acting out of line. But there's more to it. The king's also trying to get on Arthur's good side. He doesn't know about the time-stop spell, but Arthur's knack for taking out soldiers in a blink has earned his respect. Reynold initially refuses the king's peace offer. The father is even willing to go to war with the king for his son. Arthur is more rational. He knows full well he's not strong enough to start a rebellion yet. This incident has made Arthur more urgent than ever. He needs to get stronger, fast, strong enough that no one in this world can harm his family. Arthur decided to join the Magic Academy to hone his skills, and that's when he met the dean. Don't underestimate this old lady. She's easily among the top 5 powerhouses Arthur has ever encountered. Word of Arthur's talent had reached her through Vincent, and she was here to test the boy's potential. Arthur tried hitting the dean with elemental magic, but none of his attacks landed a scratch. The dean's strength was completely at odds with her appearance. She stood her ground, not dodging a single move, yet effortlessly neutralized every strike. In fact, when Arthur went all out, the dean sent him flying with a single counter. Here's the kicker. The dean didn't wield mainstream elemental magic. She used sound-based magic, a rare type with barely any intel out there. Nobody knows her weaknesses. Despite her overwhelming power, the dean didn't look down on Arthur. She saw his incredible potential and agreed to his request to delay enrollment. Arthur wanted to travel the continent first and join the academy in 3 years when he reached the standard admission age. At first, Alice wasn't on board. She just reunited with her son and wasn't ready to part ways again. This world is crawling with dangers, ferocious magical beasts, treacherous humans, and Arthur was still so young. It made Alice uneasy. Reynolds backed Arthur's decision, which earned him a scolding from Alice. But Reynolds meant well. Hiding at home for safety's sake would only leave Arthur unprepared for real threats. He suggested finding an adult to travel with Arthur, giving him both the chance to explore the continent and some extra protection. After some back and forth, they settled on Jasmine to accompany Arthur. Her skills in scouting and stealth would keep him safe. Before setting off, Arthur found a unique sword in Vincent's treasury, a perfect match for him. The sword came from a mysterious old man, and its quality remains a mystery. Arthur didn't care about the details. As long as the weapon felt right, he was happy. And so, Arthur embarked on a brand new journey. Arthur needs a fresh start to roam the continent freely. On Jasmine's introduction, he uses a fake name to take the Adventurers Guild test. He spots plenty of kids his age, their skills already rivaling grown-up powerhouses. To stay under the radar, Arthur holds back during the test, earning himself a modest B-rank adventurer status. Arthur and Jasmine team up for their first solo mission, but things go south fast when a beast attacks a human. This monster, a freaky mix of bull and boar, gobbles up its prey in seconds. Arthur unleashes the strength he hid during the test, slashing his sword multiple times in a single second to take down the beast. At dusk, Arthur and Jasmine kick back and chat, fighting and living side by side. They're growing closer by the day. Arthur learns Jasmine hails from a big-shot family. This tough older sister was branded a failure for lacking fire magic talent, unable to inherit her family's signature spells. Bullied and called useless, she became an adventurer to escape that toxic home. Arthur's furious. In his past life, he was mocked as a nobody too, but he clawed his way up to build a kingdom with his own fists. What he doesn't realize is his anger isn't just about shared pain. He's catching feelings for Jasmine without even knowing it. Meanwhile, Tessa's spying on Arthur and Jasmine through a crystal ball. She's on high alert and vows to win back her boy in the next season's story. Thanks for watching another anime recap on my channel. Drop a rating in the comments and let me know what you think. There's this classic line I love: a happy childhood can heal a lifetime of pain, but an unhappy one takes a lifetime to mend. Arthur grew up in a brutal world, turning him wary, sensitive, even robbing him of peaceful sleep. It wasn't until he crossed into this new life and met his parents, Reynolds and Alice, that he finally opened up and found kindness. Few people are born cruel. Maybe all they're missing is a happy childhood. That's it for this video. Catch you in the next one.